All right, thank you and welcome today. We'll start off with the introductions of folks. Stoyan, do you mind calling roll?
Annette?
Okay, so Andrew Klein, Chair, General Public, East of the Cascade Crest.
I am here.
Tony Doan, Vice Chair, Local Government Fire Service Official, East of the Cascade Crest.
Here.
And Anthony Mashmed, General Construction, Residential and Multifamily Housing. Jay Arnold, City Elected Legislative Body Member or Mayor.
Here.
Al French, County Elected Legislative Body Member or Elected Executive, East of the Cascade Crest.
Here.
James Milbauer, General Construction, Commercial and Industrial Building.
Present.
Robert Graper, Structural Engineer Profession, East of the Cascade Crest. Shell Anderson, Architectural Design Professionals.
Here.
Bill Limley, City Elected Legislative Body Member or Mayor, East of the Cascade Crest. Corey Wilker, Construction Building Trades.
Here.
Bob Hamlin, County Elected Legislative Body Member or Elected Executive.
Here.
Carolyn Traub, Mechanical Engineer Profession.
Here.
Micah Chappelle, Building Code Enforcement Official.
Here.
Todd Bayreuther, Manufacturers, Installers, or Suppliers of Building Materials or Components, East of the Cascade Crest.
Here.
And our new council member, Peter Reiki, representing the disability community.
Correct, yes, Peter Reiki
Reiki.
here.
Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So that is 12. We do have a quorum, and then I will continue with the ex officio members. Representative Alex Ramel.
Morning, I'm here.
Representative Larry Hoff.
Here.
Senator Linda Wilson. Senator Joe Nguyen. Lauren Lathrop.
I am here.
Thank you. And our Assistant Attorney General Derek Meyer Bachtal. Sorry.
Sounds good enough. Thank you. I'm here.
Sorry. Okay. All right.
Thank you very much, Annette. Peter, did you want to say a few words about yourself to introduce yourself? You've got a big audience today. We usually don't have this big a crowd.
Sure, I'll say a few words. I'm Pete Reiki, and I live in Pasco, Washington for the last 35 years. And I grew up on the west side in Longview, Washington. I was actually conceived in Longview, born in Everett, and graduated from high school in Longview. So as a bonus question, figure out who my father worked for. So, and then 1994, I was injured in a rock climbing accident and have used a wheelchair since then. So that's been some 28 years. And so I have quite a bit of experience with the disabilities, and that has taught me a lot about listening to people and understanding their individual trials in life. And I hope I can be a good voice, a rational voice for that community. I also have a PhD in chemistry, primarily focused on electrochemistry, batteries, fuel cells, and photovoltaics. So I have a keen understanding of analyzing energy systems and doing thermodynamics, kinetics, heat and flow, and mass transfer. So I'll leave it at that. If you have any more details, please don't hesitate to get a hold of me. So
Thank you very much, Pete, and welcome aboard.
thank you.
Next up, review and approve the agenda. I do want to make a comment or two. We've got as item number 4, public comment on items not on the agenda. We have had some requests from some folks that wanted to speak about an emergency rule regarding sprinklers in elevators. We do have that on the agenda for our next meeting. So it's specifically on the agenda there. So I would ask respectfully if we not bring that up today, since we do have a long meeting. Stoyan, anything else on the agenda we should mention?
No, you stole my speech, so I was gonna say
Oh,
that.
I'm sorry.
And I appreciate it. I'm not a good speaker. So if under agenda item 4, somebody wants to make a short statement, that's okay. But this emergency rule, we will have it on the agenda for April 22nd. And this will give me some time to collect our documents, and this time I'll try to post the documents and have them available for our council members, so the council members will have more time to evaluate what the issue is.
Thank you, Stoyan. Shell?
Yeah, we had an MVE committee meeting yesterday, and I'd like to give just a brief report out before we get into deliberations on the code, on the energy code specifically.
You can do that under agenda item 7. So it was
Okay.
expected that reports from the standing committees will be done in agenda item 7. But
Okay,
you
great.
can do it for as well. So it's up to the council how.
Yeah, I'd prefer you do it under 7 if that's okay with you, you know, when we
Yeah,
get
that's
into that.
what I was gonna suggest. It's not listed, but so that's fine.
Yep, well, you'll have the mic during that period of time, so, you know, it'll be up to you how that's led. Okay, any other comments or discussion?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda as written.
Thank you, Shel.
Second.
Thank you, Tony. Any further discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Is anyone opposed? Abstentions? And motion passes. So next up, we're going to break for an executive session. Dirk Stoyan, do you have an idea of how long we'll need?
I'll take your lead on this, Stoyan.
Okay.
Thanks for now. I was going to say 20 minutes, but I'm almost always wrong about that.
Let's do 30 then.
All right.
Okay, let me read our legal spiel and then we'll go into executive session. So the council will now meet in executive session to discuss with legal counsel representing the agency litigation to which the agency is or may be a party when public knowledge regarding the discussion is likely to result in an adverse legal or financial consequence to the agency as allowed by RCW 42.30.110(1)(I). The council will be in executive session until 10:40. The council is expected to take further action following the executive session. So thank you, and we will be back. Thank you. I'll say it for the recording. I call the regular meeting back to order. Next up, number 4, public comment on items not on the agenda. Let me open up the participant list so I can see folks who raised their hands. And alrighty, Larry.
I'd like to talk about the EcoTorp report. Is that fair game here today, or?
Hey, I'll let Stoyan answer that.
The EcoTop report was discussed at a meeting on Wednesday, the Work Group of Economic Impact. It was mentioned several times during the MVE Standing Committee meeting yesterday, and it's part of agenda item 7. So the EcoTop report is the draft that we were trying to make available for the council members when they debate, when they discuss the testimony and the code proposals during the work session. But I don't think there will be any vote on the EcoTop report.
Yeah, I understand, but I'd at least get some public opinion on the report if that's possible. Does the well, here's one question. Does the Ecotorp report include labor parts in their cost assessment? And to be honest with you, I was greatly disappointed in the report, and here's the reasons why. The first problem I see on page 3 at the report in the second paragraph, Ecotorp's primary focus is to validate the proponent's cost and benefit. I feel this is wrong to do this. What should have been asked is to find the truth, not how to prove it to be true. The report talks about a 50-year cost savings. To my knowledge, I didn't see any replacements cost in the report. The heat pumps will have much more higher maintenance, and you're going to have to replace them as 4 times in 50 years. Why would you replace? And then whereas a gas equipment, you're going to have to replace them 2 times in 50 years. The maintenance on heat pumps will be 4 times more than the gas equipment, controls, circuiting, circuit boards, cleaning, and refrigerant. And you can bet on the refrigerant you're using today will not be the same refrigerant in 50 years because they'll find something wrong with it too. My second problem is I see on page 4, the cost effectiveness study from California. California is in zone 3 and 2 mainly, not in 4. The study should not be used because the study is not in climate zone 4 and 5. Heat pumps become more usable in climate zone 3 and 2 due to how much heat is in these zones. There is much more heat BTUs in a cubic foot in zone 2 and 3 than in 4. Heat pumps with electric backup. Why not have heat pumps with gas backup? This would be a much larger carbon footprint, and here is why. Even with the proponents' proposal that I don't agree with, the carbon proposal changes a table 4073.3 bracket 1, the electric rate of a 0.44 metric tons. Even using this table, you're better off using gas at 11.7.
Hey, Larry, if you can wrap up a little.
Yeah,
fast.
I got just a few more points,
Okay,
points.
yeah, because it is on number 7 there, so this is on the agenda.
Versus 12.89 tons of CO2. If you're here to reduce CO2, gas and heat pumps are better. And then on page 721, this is way out of line, the prices, because you're going to have to do much larger, because gas water heaters and furnaces would fall under this domain, which is a much larger electrical service and major panel updates. And then on page 24, the study for gas water heaters is totally unfair to the fact that used heat pumps and electric compared against 80% gas furnaces, gas water heaters. That's like comparing an Indy car to a Honda Civic. Why would you not use a 95% PVI modulating gas water heater? With the same backups with heat pumps, you could compare heat pumps with gas backups for further CO2 reduction. When you have gas backups and the heat pump goes down, you can continue to run the heat pump until it can be repaired. Then you wouldn't tax the electrical grid. And then the final comment I got is on the high mass walls. None of the heat loss calculations give you any weight for heat gain when the sun shines on the high mass wall. This is very significant on the east, west, and south side of the buildings versus standard insulated walls. Major gains of energy are absorbed by the high mass wall when the sun is out, and thus the high mass wall has energy that is released all evening to keep the building warm. Even on cloudy days, high mass wall will become warm to your hand when touched, and that energy is absorbed into mass, which is released to the outside slowly during these periods of darkness. You cannot say this on any other type of wall construction, and it's not figured in any other type of wall construction. It's not figured in the CMU wall. The proof of this is my own garage, which is a CMU block wall. The greenery on the outside of the wall stays green well into December due to the heat that's released outside during the evenings. I've never seen my garage freeze on the inside with this high mass garage wall, where other garages I see freeze all the time. So that's one thing that's not calculated in these high mass walls that a high mass wall does give you. Thanks for your time.
Thank you, Larry. Appreciate your comment. Any other comments on items not on the agenda? Going once, going twice. Okay. Let's move on to number 5, review and approve the minutes from February 18th. All right, so here the minutes are also posted online. Any comments or corrections? Is there a motion?
So moved. Motion to approve. This is Tony.
Thank you,
I'll
Tony.
second it, Joe.
Thank you, Shell. Any further discussion?
No. Yeah, I know.
Larry, if you could mute, you're unmuted right now. Thank you. Any further discussion on the motion on the table? All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
And is there anyone opposed? Any abstentions? Motion passes.
I abstain.
Who was at the, Peter?
Yeah, since I wasn't at that meeting, I'll abstain.
Okay, thank you, Peter. Next up, I've got too many windows open here. All right, next up is the Legislative Committee report.
Thank you, Andrew. My role here as a committee chair, this is Todd Byerther, will be to simply hand it to Stoyan for the report, please.
Stoyan, are you on? We can't hear you if you are.
It looks like we may have lost him, Andrew.
All right, let's see if we can get him back in. We'll give it a minute or two and he's probably frantically trying to get back in right now.
Chair Klein, just real quick before that takes place, if anyone has their mic off, I'm just seeing 2 or 3 mics that have been on the whole time and there's some background noise. We could mute those. Thank you.
Good point. Thank you, Tony.
Sorry, I had connection issues. I'm back.
No worries. So Todd handed the baton over to you to give the Legislative Committee report.
Annette, can you let me share my screen? Thank you. I'll try to be very brief. So what you have here and what was posted on the website, and I apologize, many of the document was posted late because we had series of meetings this week and I needed to update the report. So what you see here is all bills that passed this session, that were approved this session, okay? And the highlighted bills are the bills that was monitored by the State Building Code Council. And I have links here. Again, this document is posted on the website, and the link will open the main page on the Ledge website, which you can follow everything, including all documents the last version of the bill as it was approved, the reports, and so this is related to the public meetings. And in a very brief summary, what we have in this bill, we're already doing it. Okay, so that I don't want to spend too much time on it, but we are already doing it. We have the online meetings, we have the recordings, we have the meetings in order, the minutes in order. We are posting the minutes and the recordings, the audio recordings. So everything that is this bill, we are currently doing it. The next one is SB 5722 greenhouse gases in buildings, which was intended to reduce greenhouse gas emissions in buildings. So this doesn't really affect the State Building Code Council. This is for the Department of Commerce. There were some incentives involved. There are different types of buildings that energy standards for existing buildings will be applicable to, but again, it doesn't have a direct impact on the State Building Code Council. And this one is interesting. State boards, stipends. So I personally don't know how we will, how the council will align with this bill, and I will show you the final bill report here, which explains a lot. Okay, so it applies to the council itself and our technical advisory groups. Okay, so here it is. Subject to available funding, an agency may provide a stipend not to exceed $200 to individuals who are low income or have lived experience to support their participation in Class 1 group. We're Class 1 group. We have, again, technical advisory groups. We have the standing committees. All this is related to budget availability. And again, I don't know how we will comply with it, or if we will comply with it. We'll get back to it later when I'm working with DES to figure out how it works with the budget, and then I will have a briefing for the council when I have more details to share. Okay. So this is all. I mean, we started with 15 bills and we ended up with 3. And only one really concerns the council. Again, on 5793, I will get back to you in April or May with more details, how we can comply with. Currently, I don't have the answer. And I'm done with my short lecture report.
All righty, well, thank you. Next up, the work session to discuss the deliberations on public testimony that we heard. So we'll just go down in order that it's listed. So we'll start with the work group on economic impact.
So with the work session, I want to show you a few.
Sorry, Stoyan, before we jump to that, I had my hand
Yes,
raised
sir.
on the last topic. If we can
Sorry.
jump back for 1 second.
Yes, do you want me to take the report on?
No, I just wanted to note for 5793, I'm looking at the budget that we passed, and there's a $250,000 for implementation of that in the budget. So my understanding, and I did not work specifically on this piece of legislation, but my understanding is that the subject to available funding clause there is met by the money being in the budget. And the intention is that that money would be available for agencies like SBCC to be able to pay those stipends out.
Thank you for this information. Again, I haven't discussed this with DES. We discussed it a lot when the bill was going on, but after the final approval, we haven't had the chance to do that. Thank you for this information. I wasn't aware of that. Should we go back to,
Yep, so.
Sure.
on
Should
the
we go back
WEI
to the
report.
work? With the work group of economic impact, we had the meeting on Wednesday. And there was a lot of discussion. I forwarded.
Stoyan,
all
this,
suggestions.
Stoyan, excuse me. I just wanted to make
Yes,
sure that
yes,
there's
sir.
you're sharing this, or someone's sharing a screen right now with something, RCW 3405340. Is that
Yes, sir.
intentional?
I'm out of it. Yes. Sorry.
Okay. Gotcha. Go ahead.
I will show the report that was in question. Okay, here is the draft report. It was prepared by Ecotop. The task Ecotop had was to evaluate the initial submittal and the data provided by the proponents for each proposal. Krista outlined important proposals. This will be the base for the final cost-benefit analysis. So we developed the preliminary cost-benefit analysis. It's posted on our website. It's being reviewed several times. This is the draft report for the final cost-benefit analysis. Again, it was discussed on Wednesday. There were many questions. There were many suggestions. Everything was emailed to Ecotop. Today, I don't think there will be anything to vote on, but a final draft of this report will be available for the council members about a week before the meeting on April 22nd. If the council decides not to adopt proposals or to modify proposals, it will be incorporated into the final report. The final cost-benefit analysis will be published about 2 weeks after the final council meeting in April. And there were council members attending the work group of economic impact meeting. If you folks want to share something about the Ecotop report.
Stoyan, you broke up a little bit there.
I'm sorry, I'm having some issues with the VPN. I don't know what is wrong. Can you hear me now?
Yep, we can hear you. Can you hear us?
Thank you. So what I said was that, yes.
Shell?
Yeah, thank you. I was at the meeting as well, and it was great because Ecotop was actually in the virtual room and responded to, I think, almost every question or suggestion for the report. So I highly encourage, if you have questions about the report, to watch the recording, which is on the Building Code Council events calendar for Wednesday under the work group or economic impact work group.
Yep, thank you. Larry, I'm just confirming your hand's still up from earlier. Okay, Stoyan, is that all you wanted to say on the WEI report? Al, go ahead.
So since the report is just now available in draft form, if there are comments that are going to be made with regard to sections of the report, will there be an opportunity for those to be responded to before April 22nd? And if we're not going to have a final report until after the April 22nd meeting, how do we take an action based on the report when it hasn't been finalized?
So Stoyan explained this very well in the WEI meeting. It'll be, so what we have now is 99% there. Obviously, we can make changes to what we approve next month and put forward. And then from there, Ecotope is going to take any changes from there and factor that into the report. So Stoyan, did you want to pick up from there?
Well, my internet is on and off, and I didn't hear the last couple minutes. I'm sorry, and I apologize for that.
No worries.
And,
Al asked when the opportunity is for people to comment on the final WEI report, since, you know, and how those comments get incorporated.
So again, we received good comments this Wednesday at the Work Group of Economic Impact. The report is posted on the website. So if you folks have comments, please send everything you have, and I will forward everything to Ecotope. We will do our best to make it available at least 1 week before the next meeting. So Ecotope will take into account our comments, and they will incorporate whatever is needed in the report.
Yeah. Al, does that
So we
answer?
want to complete it. We want to complete the final draft as early as possible because we want some extra time for the council members to review it.
So basically, if you've got comments, get them in as soon as possible. All right, let's move on to the IBC. Thank you, Ray. Can you blow that up just a little more?
So what you see on the screen is a summary, the testimony we received. When you access the website, you will see the recordings there for the testimony. You will see the minutes for detailed testimony. This is only a summary. Yesterday at the BFP committee meeting, the committee provided some recommendations. So you see everything. You see everything here in this summary report.
Yep. So I guess probably the best way to go through stuff, maybe we can focus where we didn't have a recommendation, you know, and our recommendation was to discuss as a full council on that. And then from there, if anyone has specific items they want to bring up, council members, then we can go there as well. So does that sound like a fair path forward, Stoyan?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so first one. So yeah, let's keep going down until we get to one where there was not a recommendation.
There is one I remember at the end, chapter 11 and chapter 29.
Mm-hmm. So, yep. So here we go for chapter 29. One of the issues here was that we needed to further research in the ADA exactly what that language is, and you know, whether that requires a 50% of all single user bathrooms to be ADA accessible, or whether we can go back to the 5%, which is what would be required if you didn't have single-use bathrooms. Micah, did you want to say anything on this?
Yeah, based on the further research and further discussions and the actions and information from the BFP committee, we'd be fine with leaving it as 50% and eliminating that 5% item, but we would like the rest of that modification to move forward.
Okay, and the rest of the modification, I think we didn't take any votes on it, but I think the consensus from what I could tell in the BFP committee is we were in agreement with the rest of the proposal. Would you agree with that, Micah?
I agree with that 100%.
So any questions or further discussion on that?
Yeah, I do have a question. I kind of got in late when that discussion happened last week. What code are we referencing here so I can read up on this particular issue?
So this is in the IBC chapter 29. And, you know, this, it talks about the minimum number of accessible bathrooms for single-use bathrooms. And we want to make sure that we're not doing anything in conflict with the ADA.
Hold
Micah,
on,
you got
Andrew.
your hand up.
Yeah, I'm going to say the one on the screen is actually for chapter 29, but you're talking about the single user restroom item in chapter 11. So
Ray, can you click on the other link?
yeah, so let's be specific. There are two proposals we discussed. The one for chapter 29, we moved forward and agreed with the proposed modification. The one on chapter 1109.2, we had some questions and concerns on the 5% versus 50% number. And we would be fine just sticking with the 50% number, but maintaining the rest of the modification. And that was what we agreed and we want to show on the screen here.
Okay.
So sorry if there's some confusion, folks.
All right, yeah, what we decided, since the ADA does say 50, we don't want to be in conflict with that. And there are design choices that designers can do, whether, you know, just have the water closet, which is the toilet itself, in separate closed off rooms, and then have the lavatory, which is the code word for sink, outside separate. Micah, you've got your hand up.
Sorry, I just had it up. I'll take it down now. Thank you. You covered it.
Okay. Any further discussion on that? All righty. I think we made a recommendation for everything else. So I guess we'll just open things up to individual issues if you'd like to discuss any. Going once. So we'll wait till you scroll all the way up and then all right, Corey.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Wasn't there a question on, there was this issue with the 50%, and then didn't we have some questions on EV, and is that on a different, is that handled in the other agenda items on this list, or was this also IBC?
Well, I don't think the IBC we had EV in it, did we? I think that was just in the energy code tag.
No, the EV is in section 429.
I saw it as he passed it by, and I didn't know. I think those were the two things we had, but I wasn't sure. And are we intending to? I wanted to make sure we didn't miss it if we need to.
Okay, no, thank you. I think that there was, yeah, so, you know, we responded to this comment to maintain the current proposal was the recommendation. We can discuss that if any comments on it.
So the request was if we can bring back the $1,000 exception as it was originally proposed. The $1,000 exception was eliminated because it was related to 1 and 2 family dwellings, and we modified the language so it doesn't have 1 and 2 family dwellings. It uses the terms and the occupancy groups as it appears in the building code. So 1 and 2 family dwellings is not there. The language was completely modified, so the exception is no longer there as well.
All right, thank you. Micah?
Thanks. I think the other one we had questions on from the BFP to discuss at council was for a fire code proposal, which will be next.
Right, yeah, the sprinkler, elevator sprinklers, correct, yep. Further discussion. Ray, do you mind scrolling, continuing to scroll up? All right. Any additional comments or discussion points? Okay. Let's move on to IFC. Tony, would you like to go through?
Yes. So okay, so I don't think there's a ton of stuff that got too much opposition throughout the hearing process. We do have a couple of items. One of the things that was brought up in the BFP yesterday was the sprinkler in the elevator pit, which I don't know. I was looking through this list and unless I pulled up the wrong one, I'm having trouble finding that portion on here. There is the section in 13R with the proposal that is amended at the Washington state level, and I think you were just on there. If you want to scroll up a little bit. And that's 903.312. That's been brought up a couple times at the hearing from people in opposition to that and industries in opposition. But the biggest concern there, or some of the concerns, is that there's an argument to be had that the 13R system is not designed to protect buildings of that elevation, as well as some of the other things that the 13R system does not cover that the 13 system would. Such as attic spaces and combustible concealed spaces. And so that's one thing that's been a topic of conversation. And then is the elevator stuff on here, Stoyan?
The elevator is the last one on the IBC.
Oh, okay.
And, there wasn't, the elevator is interesting one. So there wasn't a proposal for a different language. There was a request to disapprove the proposal for 2021, and we mentioned it at the beginning. There is also a request to withdraw the emergency that we just refiled a couple weeks ago.
Right. So Stoyan, just for clarification, as far as the emergency rule goes, this would not be the agenda item to speak on that. This is
not today. Yes, it will be. It will be in the next meeting. That's correct. Yes.
Understood. For those in the elevator industry, one thing that I've noticed in the public hearing, as well as in the BFP that I watched this morning and last night a little bit, I would strongly recommend that some data get produced for the April 22nd meeting. Specifically, what I think would be interesting to see, and which has not been presented, is what those fire stats and studies show for the hydraulic fluids that are currently being used since those properties have changed as the industry has changed. That is something that has not been proposed, and without that data, I understand there's a disagreement, but I also am not seeing anything that's backing that as far as fire data with new hydraulic oils. And it would be nice to see some data and stats on that not only are fires in the sprinkler elevator pits with this newer hydraulic fluid with the higher combustion point, but also the non-sprinkler. Those are two things that I think would add a little weight to it, and also probably help the council and those that have not been as directly involved to understand that opposition a little more.
May I speak?
I don't think we're opening this up for public comment, but you know, you did speak at in the BFP committee meeting, which is recorded. So I do recommend that council members take a look at that.
And I
Stoyan,
will
correct me if I'm wrong.
You're correct, and I will collect all documentation that's available, and I will have everything filed for the next meeting in April. Of course, if the council members have questions, I think it was Gerard from LNI. Of course, if the council members have questions for him, you can ask questions without testimony, but this meeting wasn't planned for additional set of public testimony.
Right. So yeah, if any council members would like to ask Gerald any questions, you're welcome to do that. But correct me if I'm wrong, on April 22nd also, we'll be taking a look at the emergency rule prior to any action on these. So we'll be able to hear all that testimony for the emergency rule, which is the same issue of this, which will then be voted on. Is that correct?
That's correct, yes.
Okay.
And Chair Klein and Stoyan, just to add to this, the fire tag, when we went through this, for the sprinkler in the elevator, we didn't have any opposition to it during that time. And I understand that how this works and this process goes is that, you know, it ends up kind of, sometimes the can get kicked down the road a little bit before someone realizes or gets involved. However, there was no opposition at that time, and I would also urge council members to get a hold of the tag that worked on this and vetted through it and go through it, Gerald as well as the tag, and reach out and see what why those decisions were made, and go back and look at those tag meetings.
Thank you, Tony.
And also, I'll just add that Gerald had his email address in the chat if somebody would like to contact him.
Perfect. Thank you. Oh, I'm sorry, Tony. You're leading this part. So
no, you're good. No, that's fine. And so with those two, other than those two topics, we don't really have any opposition to the other stuff. And so if there's anything else that anyone would like to add, they can. Otherwise,
I have a few clarifying questions or recommendations, and I apologize. I was reactive, wasn't proactive. It was a difficult week, but I reviewed the proposals related to the fire code last night, so I wasn't able to update the document and upload it on the website. But I can state my concerns very quick, or I can put everything in writing and make it available for the council members for the meeting on 22nd.
Yeah, why don't you state them now? It's less work for you.
So for the first one, it's table 315.76, and the BFP recommended approval. It's when I was reviewing the table, it seems like the testimony is saying it's an existing amendment, but the fire code TAC recommended delete existing amendment. So it's a clerical issue, I guess, because the recommendation was to adopt the model code 2021, and what we have in the proposal, how it was submitted, was based on 2018. So I don't know how important is that. Yeah, so that one is in 2018. The model code was modified, so it's I think it's a clerical thing, but.
Yeah, what happened was in this table, what took place was they had numbers that were flip-flopped, like inverse in the 18 cycle, because this table was new in the 18 adoption at the international level, and so the state amended the table just to show it as accurate. And then in the 21 cycle, they fixed their error, And so then we're just removing that. That's all that is.
So we will, if this goes forward, then we will get the 2021 table and we will add the footnote. Is that?
That's a good question on the footnote. Let me, I have the 21 model code up. If you can just give me 30 seconds, I'll be there.
I have it open on my screen, but each time I try to share something and my internet acts crazy. So I prefer to stay logged in versus sharing.
I understand that. I'm almost there.
Thank you for calling.
Yeah, it doesn't, there isn't any footnotes on table 315.76, 1 or 2, 3, or 4. And so the footnote, I'm unsure of.
So the proposal will be, the modification will be to add the footnote.
Yeah, that's the way it's looking, Storm.
Okay. On the second one, section 405.2, again, BFP recommended approval. So it's an exception 3, which is addressing R4, group R4. And the recommendation is to delete this exception because group R4 is not adopted in Washington. The question I have, and I'm not, fire code is not my favorite thing, but we have similar issues in the building code. So my question is, group R4 is not adopted in Washington, which is all right, but we have, so group R4 is alcohol and drug centers, assisted living facilities, congregate care facilities, group homes, halfway houses, residential board and care facilities, social rehabilitation facilities. So what I see in exception 4, exception 3, it exempts group R4 from actual exiting from emergency escape and rescue openings and provide some alternative without getting into details. But if we struck exception 3, then it also eliminates the exception for, I will use assisted living facilities. So we're deleting an exception, but we have the same occupancy under different groups or defined differently. So that's the connection I want to make. And I don't have the answer because I haven't researched that, but if it is an exception for a particular group, I believe it should be replaced with something. Again, that's a discussion for discussion purposes. I don't know the answer yet.
Okay, Stoyan, thank you. I'll make note of that, and I'll jump back into the tags where we reviewed this and see what came up during that time.
The next one is 403.3.1.1, and I was hearing. I'm sorry.
Corey has his hand up.
Sorry, I'll zip it.
Sorry, it was relative. Dave Kokop posted his email and said he was the proponent and author of the elevator pit. And so I just wanted to make that aware. He put it out in chat.
Thank you, Corey. Appreciate that.
403.3.1.1. Again, so we have section 403.3.1, which is a state amendment, and it's titled Fire Evacuation Plan. So I guess my question or my concern is to align with the model code, and I was having a hard time to follow, and I'll try to explain why. So this section 403.3.1 is titled Fire Evacuation Plan. And the language in this section is similar to the language in the model code section 403.3.1.1. I think it's down there. You see it on the screen. And this section is fire safety and evacuation plan. So we have proposed modifications, but they are already used in the model code. Tony, if you have it open.
Yes, I do. Yeah, I'm looking at it
Okay.
right now.
So that's, I guess, coordination between the existing amendment and the new model code. So the 40331 in the model code is ambulatory care facilities, and we have it with a different title. Again, the language is very close. I wasn't involved from the beginning in the fire code tax, so I don't know the rationale yet. I'll check it. But the next section, 403.311 in the model code, is fire safety and evacuation plan. And what I see proposed here is the same as I see it in the model code. So I don't know if we need this modification at all.
Understood. Okay. We'll take a look at that one too.
The last one is for discussion purposes, and when we get to the conversation about variances between proposal and final rule, whether or not this is a substantial a change. So we have a proposal in section 404.2.3 for lockdown plans, and it seems like this a new proposal. I'm not sure if it went through the technical advisory group review, so it will be up to the council to decide. But my concern was that this proposal may be considered substantially different from what was proposed in the CR 102. And if the intent for all these proposals, modifications to existing proposals, if the intent is for this to go through the technical advisory group, then I can provide more detailed report for the technical advisory group.
Yeah, and with 40423, lockdown plans previously was not adopted by the state.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, and so this should be just to put it back into basically for Washington State to just go back to the model code.
Okay.
So
the last one, 308.1.9, a decorative open flame table. So the proposal is to take out fireplaces, which appears in the text, not in the title, but talking about the regulatory effect, it seems like it's a better option to add the fireplace to the title instead of taking out the fireplace from the requirement. Again, this is something that
what section is that, Stoyan?
308.1.9.
Oh.
So the request is to delete fireplaces from the text because it's not in the title, and I think it's a better option to add the fireplace to the title and keep it in the text. And Krista, I see her hand, and she is more familiar with this stuff. So Krista, if you can add something.
Well, actually, my comment was on the previous 404.2.3, and another problem with that is that section is not in the CR 102. So adding it is rather problematic.
Well, it wouldn't
from
be
a process standpoint. If it doesn't appear in any way in the CR 102, it would have to start the process again.
So that's different from a significant change. It's even more significant than that.
It wasn't initially proposed, yes. Well,
since it's not filed at all, it would be problematic to try to add that language into the 103. We'd have to file a new rule and go through the new rule process, I believe.
if that was not that section specifically, this is for the lockdown plans, is that correct? Is that the one you're referring to, Krista?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so if that one originally was not adopted by the state. Because originally kind of our take on it in previous code cycles was that once there's a lockdown plan in place, that it's a law enforcement scene, not so much a fire scene. That's since changed and fire has been more and more involved in those things. And now we would like to just adopt the model code. That's the intent behind that.
But what is proposed is not the model code, it's a model code with amendment. It's not the language from the model code.
Right, but how did it not get in the CR 102 if that's what's been approved all the way?
Because
through
we
the process?
didn't open that section for possible change. The CR 102 has all the sections opened that had proposed changes to them. And section 404 was not included, I don't believe.
What Krista is trying to say is this is an existing amendment, and that the TAC recommended keep the existing amendment, which is not adopted, right? And the council agreed with that. And in the CR 102, this section doesn't show up as a proposal because there is not a new proposal. So when you see the CR 102 and the attached proposals, it's not there. So now we're introducing something new that wasn't initially proposed.
Well, it can't get to the point it is without the tag saying that that is what they wanted to do. And we didn't do anything after the CR 102 with that. And so I'm confused at how that is lacking in the CR 102 and to say the tag did not want that.
Well, the TAC recommendation was keep the existing amendment. This is what we have in the report.
We'll discuss this maybe once, sometime this week.
Yeah, this is why I said, if you're planning to have the technical advisory group discussing those, we can prepare something for you and we can.
Yeah, let's do that, Stoy, and that'll probably be cleaner instead of this stage.
So I'll finish with that 308.1.9. Again, we can spend more time at the TAC during the TAC meeting, but my opinion was that it's better to add the fireplaces to the title versus deleting the fireplace, because adding to the title, it doesn't change the regulatory effect, but deleting the title from the text change the regulatory effect. So we'll get back to, is it substantially different from the proposal in the CR 102 or not? And this is, I didn't check the initial proposal, but I don't think we have this section in the CR 102 as well. So again, we can go back to it in detail later next week.
Sounds good, Stoyan. Thank you. Okay, I have nothing further on the fire code as far as a review unless anyone else does.
All right, thank you, Micah. You've got your hand raised.
Thanks. I'm not sure I need an answer. Yeah, I'm kind of confused what just happened with that proposal. Probably, and maybe Tony and Stoyan can fill me in on that, because is what I'm hearing is because there's nothing in the CR 102, you're saying that we're moving the amendment forward, which is striking that language. Wouldn't that be an amendment that would still need to be in the CR 102? So I'm confused. That's all. It didn't clear up anything, and I'm just confused. And if that needs to be a later discussion, that's fine.
Yeah, I am too. I think that's why I wanted it to be a later discussion, because I am too. I'm not sure how to move forward with it. I just know that if at the tag we approved for that to be, reversed with a little bit of added language, then I'm completely lost on how it doesn't get into the CR 102. And so that's my confusion. But again, that's probably a conversation for a different time. We don't have to tackle that here.
Okay, thank you. Any further discussion on the IFC? All right, Shell, you're ready to go through the commercial energy code as well as the things you wanted to say about it that we discussed earlier in the meeting?
Yes.
Okay, floor is yours,
Yes.
and feel free to call on people too. I'm completely handing it over to you for this.
Yeah. I guess I'll just give a really brief overview of what we did. So we got obviously lots and lots and lots of testimony on this. There were thousands of comments, and many of those fell into the I support the entire energy code, and many were I oppose these three specific elements of the energy code. And then many other comments fell into the edits kind of category, where there were actual, other than striking entire sections of the code or proposals, they were more about cleaning up language, clarifying things, and making the code easier to enforce, or making consistency improvements in that. So the MVE committee convened yesterday and reviewed nearly all of the written comments, and we placed them into 6 buckets. And I could list the buckets, but essentially they were, one of the buckets is stuff that is really the council's purview. The MVE doesn't want to preempt the council making decisions on the really, really contentious issues. So we didn't look at those issues, but we did look at the substantive comments on of a technical nature or for consistency, of which there were hundreds of those specific comments. So we determined that the energy code, the commercial energy code tag, needs to be convened to deal with some of the comments that are just of a really technical nature about lighting or about mechanical systems that we really want to get the expertise of the many, many amazing volunteers on the commercial energy code would be able to provide for us to get good language into a code that's enforceable and consistent, et cetera, and technically feasible. So that energy code tag will probably convene on April 1st to consider the several issues we suggested that they go to. The MV committee did look at a few issues that we thought we could handle. And so you can see on the right column on what is on the screen, what the MVE committee suggested is done. MVE committee did not do any votes on any of this. This is in our understanding. The MVE committee can do it without necessarily voting on it, but we didn't have any issues with consensus about where to put these things. So in short, the MVE committee met and is meeting to take the technical load off the council. So it's a great deal of work because we have hundreds of suggestions from really amazing volunteers who poured over the code, and will make it better for everybody from a enforcement and consistency level later. So we're trying to take the technical stuff or help the council with the technical stuff. So the idea is that the tag will convene, go through some highly technical issues. MVE will convene probably on the 7th or the 14th of April, and kind of package those up. And so the council will then get recommendations from the MVE on those comments that are of a technical nature, and not on the big ones that we got thousands of comments on, because that's the purview of the council. So that's a quick report. Did I miss anything, Stoyan or others who were there at the MVE committee?
There was this one issue that we forwarded to the council without any recommendation from the committee.
Yeah, we can go through that. That was the energy code tag and the MVE and the CR 102 went out with numbers in the carbon emissions table for the state of Washington. And one of the public comments was to revise the natural gas number based on fugitive emissions, emissions that happen at the wellhead or in pipelines and other things. So it's a highly contentious issue. And so the MVE did not weigh in on that. The council could kick it back to the tag if the council wanted the tag to cover this issue. Or it could be discussed and debated here today or on April 22nd. Thanks, Krista. And I can explain more about we can talk more about it if you want right now.
So if you do want to send it back to the tag, maybe you do that during other business since we can make motions in there. If you choose to do that.
Yeah, I guess I'm interested in what others think about that, or if this group wants to handle the that proposal within the council, because it is going to be a very contentious issue. And
I
guess
would recommend to go through the tag process again if there's time for that, which I believe there is.
Okay. And then from talking with staff during the MVE, it sounded like it is, I guess, my purview as the chair of the MVE to send some of these proposals to the tag. So we may not even need council action on that, but Stoyan, what say you about that? That was my understanding from yesterday.
Well, any change to the initial proposal needs to go to needs to be approved by the council.
No. Yes. But if we wanted to send it to the tags, the tag could have a recommendation to the council.
No, this doesn't need a council vote. So the tag will meet, we'll debate it, and then you can send the recommendation to a council.
Okay, thanks for clarifying, and that was a good question, Andrew.
And Chair, if I may, this is Krista, council staff. The MVE committee pretty much just looked at the testimony that provided specific language on modifications, but the other documents posted have a summary and or position on all of the other testimony presented, both written and oral. The council can just review that at their leisure, or we can go through it now, depending on how you feel.
That's a really good point, and just so it's abundantly clear, if people wrote comments but didn't have a specific modification, it is really difficult to know what they mean in terms of code language. And so the MVE exclusively looked at those who proposed changing language in the code and not at general comments about the code.
But you read the general comments and considered them and discussed?
Some of the general comments were general enough that someone would need to generate actual code language for it to be considered. And no one in the MVE committee volunteered to write new code language based on the general comments. And then most of the general comments are about the major proposals that attracted thousands of comments, and that the MVE committee felt the council should consider without a specific recommendation of the MVE. Does that answer your question, Andrew?
I think so. I just want to make sure that all comments were considered and that it was a decision that, ones that did not propose language did not warrant a change in the code.
The majority of the rest of the comments were to adopt or not adopt specific proposals.
Okay.
Yeah, and I guess within the 3 hours that we spent together, we felt that probably there was no opposition to looking at primarily the comments that had specific code language. No one thought that that was not a good idea. So that's what we did, and elected to not attempt to take a position on the highly contentious issues.
Okay. Well, I assume you took the position of what you had recommended prior that you.
Yeah, the MVE did forward all the comments to the council, and the council turned them into the CR 102. And so, yeah, MVE is already.
Okay. None of the comments persuaded you to change your opinions.
I can't speak for the entire committee, but there was no one on the committee thought that the comments needed to be discussed within the MVE committee. I think the group generally felt that the MVE can have opinions on things, but ultimately the council needs to make decisions on the big issues. The MVE could attempt to take a different position or a more nuanced position on the public comments if the council wants the committee to do that, to do so.
That's the only reason I brought that up. I want the full committee, all members to know what was and was not considered, and so thank you, and sorry to grill you. So Senator Wilson.
Thank you. I just got on about an hour ago, but I've been listening to everything here. I noticed, you're talking about thousands that had opinions that wrote in, and I'm scrolling through the one that you just scrolled through. So generally speaking, it looks to be about half and half of support and oppose on this. Yeah, on this one. So are the opposing, and I haven't had time to go through all of them, but are the opposing generally the same viewpoint? And that viewpoint looked at and considered? Because I see you're saying the MVE, you're looking at the bigger picture rather than the issues here. I looked back at a couple of others, and there are specific issues, but you're saying that those don't matter and you're only looking at the big picture. I'm just trying to figure out what we're looking at here. And am I correct in it? Is it equal to supporting and opposing, or generally?
There's a question for me.
Whoever can answer it, that would be great.
I think all the comments were posted for the MVE committee meeting, and I've personally read through or listened to almost all of them. I think we actually did kind of you said we took the bigger picture view and ignore the smaller picture, and actually I think we did the opposite. We took the view of, I think the council has the burden of making the big decisions of, do we go forward with this energy code that is, meeting the legislative targets, but also making noticeable changes in energy use in the state. Instead of looking at those big picture issues, we looked at the technical issues so that the code council can look at the big issues. The MVE committee looked at all of the other hundreds of highly technical comments that I'm sure the council does not want to hear, just because there's so many of them and they take experts hours to pour through. So we were trying to diligently help the council in that we want to be able to recommend a package of technical changes that are not substantive, and will improve the reading and interpretation and consistency of the code. So yeah, I guess in sum, I think we looked at all the changes, but we limited our direction to the more technical matters.
Okay. Thank you.
Shelley. Yeah, and I think, you know, the reason we're asking is with the, and we didn't have nearly as many comments, so it's not a reflection on the MVE committee, but in the fire in the building, we, you know, made a recommendation to the full council. So that's why, you know, the council needs to know when it comes to these energy issues that you didn't take this position. If they want to send it back through, so you take a position, then they need to tell you to do that. But otherwise, they've got to read these comments for themselves. I mean, they should anyway, but they're going to have to, you know, come to their own conclusions as a council member. Did I state that properly, Shell? And that was the intent.
Yeah, I think the comments were made to the building code council, and so council members should, you know, listen and read those comments. The MVE will meet again after the tag meets. So if we, the council, want the MVE to weigh in on the larger issues, I guess direction could be given to do that.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we discussed the issues. I think everyone knows them. So, you know, council members can make a decision whether or not to send that back. Al?
Yeah, so I want to share this comment more for the good Senator Wilson. In earlier parts of the meeting, there was public testimony that criticized the economic analysis because the zones that it used were 2-3, which is predominantly the west side of the state, not 4-5, which is the eastern side of the state, and its analysis on the efficiency and effectiveness of heat pumps in the colder climates and stuff. So I thought that was interesting, and I have yet to actually be able to read the economic analysis myself, but I'll be doing that before the next meeting to not only look at that, but some other issues that were challenged. The one thing that I was struck by in listening to the testimony was the preponderance of support for the controversial issues were really expressed by West Siders. And I don't mean to be derisive in that observation. It just was something that, you know, as you looked at the organizations or individuals that commented where they lived and how the energy code would impact them, I think is a significant element and stuff. So the preponderance of testimony and support of the controversial issues were, as indicated, from the west side. So just ask you to take a look at that as you, you know, review the information and prepare for our next meeting. Thank you. Thank you for your work on this, Senator.
Thank you, Al. Any other comments on the energy code deliberations here? And I guess since we're still in the same item number, you any comments also, like Al made on the WEI or IBC or IFC as well.
And Chair, if I may, this
Yep.
isn't a group one code, but we also have the off-cycle rulemaking for the residential energy code on the gas fireplace ignition. And there wasn't much testimony submitted on that. It was all oral testimony. And so there's a breakdown of that as well. And that will need to be considered on the 22nd in addition to the group one codes.
All right, thank you. And from my memory, there wasn't any negative testimony on extending that.
No.
All right. So for agenda item number 7, any more discussion or comments? Okay, so on to number 8, other business.
Andrew, I did have my hand up just at the minute there,
Oh.
but I missed you.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Corey.
We were talking about the comments and I was paying attention to, I've been in most of those meetings, and as far as the issues with the masonry walls, I don't recall anybody that was a proponent. Every comment was opposed. Is that accurate? As far as it being a 50-50, I think.
I think there were a
At
couple.
least 2, yeah.
Most people were opposed, yes, but I think there were 1 or 2 that snuck their support of that as they were talking about other stuff as well.
Thank you.
Micah?
Thanks again, Andrew. Thanks, Shell, for that report. Based on the ones that say staff to review further, when is that going to occur? And are we going to have a report on that before the next meeting or during the next meeting before we're expected to take votes on these proposals?
If, is it for staff or?
All I'm doing is I'm looking at the green page report. There are several in there that say staff to further review and categorize to determine which need tag reviews. Was that work done now? Do we need to send these back to the tag? Is that work going to be done before the next meeting? And when is that going to occur? I guess that's what I'm asking.
So the staff review is expected to happen fairly soon before the tag. And so the tag will have a full day of reviewing these comments. Basically, many of the comments are helpful suggestions to improve lots of things about the code. And some have some technical review that needs to happen. And so staff will go through and bucket these into the 6 buckets we talked about, one of which is they probably should go to the tag for improved language or consistency. Another of the buckets is editorial, clerical, and many of the comments fall into that category as well.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, you found the remote and the charger?
Yeah, it was in the Valentine's bag that either
Senator Wilson,
Rena
you're
or whatever had.
unmuted on this.
We
meeting.
put it in that bag. We didn't put it back in the.
Is staff, okay, thank you. Michael, were you finished?
Yeah, I guess that's enough for now. I still don't, I mean, if you're talking one tag meeting and then you're going to bring this report back at the next meeting, go over these proposed changes, and then we're expected to vote on those in the next meeting. I just, the timeline seems we're going to get an answer from the tag. We're not going to have much time as council members to review those further recommendations before we're expected to vote on them. And so that's kind of my question is that the timeline we're looking at? And is that what we're to be expecting?
Chair, if I may, I can provide some information on the timeline.
Yep, please.
So the tag will be reviewing it. We're looking at April 1st, and we will be moving the MVE committee meeting up a couple of weeks. So they will then review the tag recommendations and put out their report, and you'll have that a week to 2 weeks before the final council meeting on April 22nd.
Thank you, Krista.
And
you.
the idea, we want to explore the idea of having at least a week between the standing committee meetings and the council. It's a much better option versus, NV or BFP meeting on one day and the council meeting on the next day. So if we have some additional work for the fire and the building code, we'll try to do the same.
Representative Hoff.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chair. Yes, Stoyan, can we have that report from the MVE committee emailed to all of us as opposed to just having to dig into the council website?
We can do that.
Thank you.
Any further questions, comments, discussion on agenda item number 7? All right, okay, so on to other business. Larry, you've had your hand raised. Do you have anything for other business, or is it still raised from earlier when you spoke?
No, I do have it for section 8. I mean, as a general public person and a person that has attended these council meetings for probably 20 years or more, I'm getting really confused about the process anymore. I was under the impression is when you submit a proposal in and then the tag finally vents everything out and then it's submitted to the council and then you go through public opinions. I was never under the impression that a public opinion could change what the proposal was. I mean, I could see if you need to change a word or something, but it's like anymore that it's not said and done until the last moment. And because of, I mean, you just take the natural gas thing. Someone's proposed 19 something for natural gas. That wasn't even in the proposal. It wasn't even talked about natural gas. But now it's being brought up and staff's time is being taken and looking at it. And so as a general public person, when a lot of these people have put in all their comments, they think the thing is done with, okay? But what's going on here right now is we're modifying, we're changing, and we're doing all kinds of other stuff. And I didn't think that was the approach. Now, maybe I'm totally wet here, but it's never been that way in the past. And so I'm trying to look for some clarification here of what's going on. And other people in my positions are feeling the same thing. It's like the can's still open and the can was supposed to be shut. And then what was in the can was supposed to be looked at and debated. But now the can's being opened up and more things are going into the can. And it just doesn't seem like it's been in the past. Now, I don't know, maybe the Washington State WAC has been changed or something. And I'm looking for some guidance here because as a person that reviewed all this stuff, I mean, if I knew I could put proposal changes in, I probably would have done that. But my opinion and the opinion of the past was that you couldn't do that. You looked at what was in the can and decided what was in the can, either it was good or it was bad, and why it was good or bad. But now the can's opened up and you can put more in the can. And that's what I'm seeing. And I'm looking for some answers here because it doesn't seem correct.
Well, I appreciate your comment, Larry. Stoyan, did you want to say
Yes,
anything
so
about the process?
Yes, sir. What you see on the screen is the Administrative Procedure Act, Section 3405340. So this is the variance between proposed and final rule. I was trying to show this at the beginning, but I had some internet issues that I'm not smart enough to, wasn't smart enough to fix. So here is the rule. An agency may not adopt a rule that is substantially different from the rule proposed in the published notice of proposed rule. So when Krista was talking about CR 102 and what was initially proposed, I assume this is what she meant. Okay, and I'm not providing any legal advice here. This is how we read the law, and this is how we make the interpretation. Dirk is here, so if he wants to share his legal opinion on that, but what we're trying to do is, if something is introduced and it wasn't discussed before, or it totally changes the regulatory effect, we're trying to warn the council members that there may be a future issue with that. But the council staff cannot make the conclusion if this is a significant, substantially different proposal or not. We can advise, but we can't make the decision.
Yeah,
I don't know how.
Stoyan, since you've pulled me into this, I'll just say a word or two. I think RCW 30.
Sorry to throw under the bus.
That's okay. So RCW 3405340 is the relevant provision. If we start thinking about what the authority is of an agency under the APA to make significant changes between the rules as proposed in the 102 and then the final adopted rules. And there's some doctrine that supports that. But the long and the short of it is there are certain procedural requirements for the agency to follow if there is a substantial change between the 102 and the 103. I can't speak to past SBCC practices over the last 20 years. I haven't advised the agency that long, but there hasn't been any significant changes in the underlying law with regard to this provision of the statute. It's been on the books for a long time, and as Stoyan has pointed out, it governs the options available to the council as it considers what it wants its final proposed rules to look, or final adopted rules rather, to look like vis-a-vis the proposed rules.
Derek, Larry, anything else on other business?
Well, the question still arises is, I mean, once the can's sealed up, can another person propose another change that's into that rule? And I don't think you can.
So my understanding is if a section is touched, that can be massaged a little bit until CR 102 comes out. So you know, you put in a comment from the public and there's a date at which the can closes. Then at that point, it gets discussed through the tags and the subcommittees and council. And I believe at that point, it can be modified in different ways. And then the CR 102 comes out. Then at that point, you can't have a significant change. You can make minor changes. If you have a significant change, then it has to go through that process again.
Well, and Andrea, I'm gonna jump in for a second here because I think that's a generally good rule of thumb, although of course legally, as always, things are a little bit more nuanced than that. I mean, the reason we have a comment period under the APA is for policymakers to get feedback, right, on their proposed rules. And sometimes that feedback might lead them to consider making pretty substantial changes to the rules. This statute doesn't preclude the agency from making those substantial changes, but it requires that some additional procedural hoops have to be jumped through. Of course, the question that I've always received, and that probably a lot of you are asking, what is a substantial change? And there is some, the statute, the APA speaks to that. It walks through it, but like so many other things, at the end of the day, it's kind of a fact by fact kind of assessment, provision by provision assessment. And you know, as a lawyer, I would advise you all that members of the council, you know, you need to consider each one and then kind of consider the risk of moving forward with something if it seems substantial that it might require the agency to follow these additional procedures. And that probably just muddied everything, Andrew, but I just want to make sure that
In law, everything is muddy, right? Until the end.
right.
So when the last Friday, when the CR2 was heard by the public, was the can closed at that time, or was the can open so that people could submit other changes to the proposal, and those changes could be reintroduced to the tag and have those proposals looked at and re-reviewed and then come out again? That's my question.
I get it.
Okay,
So we're talking, Andrew.
Okay, here, sorry.
Yeah, no. You're the chair. I should be sorry. If I'm hearing Mr. Andrews here, he's actually talking about the closing of the comment period and whether additional comments can be considered by the policymaking agency following the closing of the comment period if those new comments are received after the closing of the comment period. Is that right?
Well, what I'm saying is last Friday, we had everybody's comments were supposed to be sent in and everybody's talking was supposed to be done. And at that point, was the can closed or was the can reopened up from the comments that were made by those people's comments? Okay. Was the can closed before that point and the people were making comments on what was in the can, or after that period that they made the comments, those comments go into the can and are reevaluated?
The purpose of the rulemaking process in the comment period is for members of the council to assess the comments and making a determination on what the final rules, the rules they adopt, should say. So they get feedback from interested parties, including members of the public, regarding what the proposed rules are to help them make a better decision regarding what the final product should look like.
And at that point, Larry, you can make any comment. Now it's then up to the council if it's not a significant change to incorporate the comment, then they can do that without much trouble. If it is a significant change, they can still incorporate it. It's just they have to then send that back again through the process because that original can had been closed.
Okay, so those major changes would go into the next code cycle. They wouldn't be introduced into this code cycle?
That's not necessarily true.
Okay.
Right. So again, the council under this statute, RCW 3405340, the council can vote based upon the comments that they receive and their own policy preferences, right? That's what they're appointed for, to make changes to the proposed rules. And those changes could be substantial changes. If they do that, it doesn't kick into the next code cycle, that they might have to reopen this rulemaking to provide for public comment on those new substantial changes and then do another hearing on it. But it does not push everything off except for potentially a new round of limited rulemaking.
Okay. I think there was a huge misunderstanding of what was going on here by the general public. And because I had never seen this happen before. And it is being pressed by the people on the west side pretty hard. And so now that we know what the rule is, many of us will start making those changes most likely.
Very good. Thank you, Larry. I think that was important for us all to discuss. So thank you for that.
Yeah.
Micah.
So I saw Representative Rommel and Chael's hands go up, and I want to make sure that that's not pertaining to Mr. Andrews' comments or the discussion there. If it is, both of you could go first. I wouldn't want to interrupt that comment with what I feel. I've got several, I would say 3 other items for business. So Were your comments based on those, Representative Rommel?
Mine is, I don't know if Shell's is.
Feel free to jump in, please.
Go ahead, Representative.
Thanks. I was just going to ask Derek if, as part of legal guidance that you're offering, written guidance that you're offering to the council in advance of April 22, if you can make sure and include some, I realize there's some gray areas here, but as much as you can do to unmuddy the waters. I think it is possible for folks to throw out that something isn't properly in front of us or that the procedure hasn't been followed correctly. I think we need to have clear guidance. The council's responsibility is figuring out what the right building code is. We definitely need your help to make sure that the procedures have been followed correctly and that the decisions that folks are asked to vote on are properly in front of them. And it would be really helpful to have that clearly spelled out ahead of that meeting so that we're not arguing about whether we should be voting on something that we're about to vote on.
You bet. I'll work with council staff to put together something that hopefully can be helpful. And this is independent, as I understand it, Representative Rommel, of any discrete legal questions that might arise between now and the 22nd regarding specific proposals or specific legal questions.
It could be part of the same FAQ or longer memo, but
okay.
There are a number of these questions, as you know, in front of us, and there's a lot of eyes on this. And so your help in making sure that we narrow it to the questions that are really the policy questions.
Gotcha.
And the procedural stuff is determined ahead of time. It's frustrating to try and talk about policy when we're also trying to talk about process.
Totally get it.
Really appreciate it. Thank you.
It's my pleasure.
Thank you, Representative. So, Micah.
Thanks, Representative, as well, and I apologize if I mispronounced your last name.
Oh, I just want to make sure I got it right, Micah.
Sorry, gentlemen. I've got that one announcement too to make. So if you're
but I think, excuse me, I think Chell's, if you don't, Andrew, I think Chell's hand is up.
Mine is up too, Dirk, and that part of what I probably have to do is of my other business will be also what Andrew has to mention. So Andrew, go for it.
All right, I'll do my other business. So today is my last council meeting. I've served on the council for 6 years. That's 2 sessions. They're 3-year appointments. It's been great. I'm hoping that I leave the state code a little better than I found it. But new blood's coming in, and that's always good for any organization or council. So I want to thank everyone and, wish everyone the best of luck. I'll try to stay involved in some of the tags. I spoke with Stoyan about staying on the building code tag. So that's my intention. And maybe I'll come back and cause trouble as a past chair like Dave Kokotz does. I'm just joking, Dave. I don't really think you cause trouble. But okay, so that being said, yep, say whatever you want, Micah or Shell. Yeah.
Micah, can you let me speak first, very quick?
I will yield the floor to you all day long, Stoyan.
Okay, I don't need all day. Andrew's replacement, her appointment, her name is Kathy, if I'm pronouncing it right, and her appointment is effective on Monday. I had my thank you letter for Andrew, but I just got the chance to say it. Usually the council chair is reading the thank you letter, but in this case we're talking about the chair. So Andrew, the State Building Code Council, well, Andrew Frost on my screen, do you see the same thing?
We can see him.
Okay. So the State Building Code Council would like to thank you, Andrew, for all your time, dedication, and support while serving of the council as chair and other positions you held. Your leadership was very much appreciated. We really appreciate the time you have taken out of your busy schedule to support us in the mission of making Washington State buildings and facilities safe and accessible to everyone. Your expertise has been invaluable, and we extend our heartfelt thanks to you. That was the official part. The unofficial, it was pleasure working with you, Andrew. I really appreciate it. I'm sure our paths will cross later.
Thank you very much. And yeah, you know, I think this has one of the best staffs around, and you know, you guys have been phenomenal too. So Tony will start leading you starting next meeting, and you know, he'll be your fearless leader. I have no concerns over Tony. Thank you. Micah, back to you.
All right. With that, based on, I've got a couple of items. So with Andrew leaving, that means we would have a vacancy on our recommended settlement team of Andrew, Tony, and Stoyan. And so we would need to make a motion to replace Andrew on that. Would the appropriate time be now, Stoyan or Andrew?
Yeah, I think that would be appropriate.
Okay. I would like to move, if they're willing, to have Carolyn Traub replace you as that position for the settlement group.
I'll second. This is Tony.
Okay, Carolyn, do you accept?
I do. Thank you.
Very good.
Yeah.
Any discussion on the motion? Micah, your hand's up still, but I mean, you made the motion.
I will take a vote, but I have two other items of other business, so that's why my hand's still up.
Okay. All right. Going once, going twice on discussion on the motion. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Is anyone opposed? Any abstentions? And motion passes.
Awesome. Thank you, Carolyn. Thank you, Andrew, again, for all that you've done. One thing I want to discuss in other items of business is about the Wildland Urban Interface Code for Group 2 and where we have landed, at least as far as the council goes, on an RCW number for that code and appointing a tag. Do we have some information on that? Stoyan, am I freezing up? Or
No, you're not.
Okay.
We have a tag chair, but I don't think we are done with establishing the group that will help with the development of this code. So if Tony or Ray have more details, just feel free to share it.
I think Stoyan, you covered very well. I have a list of what do I want to put, seats for the chair, for the tag put together. I wanted to send it out in a Gov delivery notice. It's been pretty hectic couple weeks, but we'll get that out. As far as the WAC number, we have an established WAC number. We have filed a CR 101, but what will happen is when we form a tag and get proposals and make our changes, that's when it'll officially become a WAC number and be an official WAC when we take it through the process.
Thank you. I meant WAC, not RCW. If you need some names for that list, I know that the work I've been doing through WABO as a work group combined with the Washington Fire Marshals Association and some Fire Chiefs Association, that we are developing an entire WUI code that will tie in the DNR mapping and the RCW language as it exists currently as well. So look forward to that. My last item of business is to bring up a topic that Stoyan is aware of, about a proposal coming from the Structural Engineers Association of Washington from their Earthquake Engineering Committee. And it has to do with a request for an off-cycle rule. It could possibly look as going as an emergency rule. However, it would still need to go through the off-cycle rule process because they believe it needs to be a permanent rule for the 2018 currently adopted codes. They will be putting in a proposal to have this same language maintained or changed for the 2021 codes. And so hopefully we can get that information on the next, or excuse me, that topic on the next agenda. I know Stoyan is aware of it. They are looking at reducing the complexity and potential risk of a flawed oversight that could occur in the ASCE 716 requirements. And this has to do with seismic design response for their seismic design response spectra, and it's very complex, and doing hazard analysis that's more site specific and stuff like that. So it's actually going to reduce the complexity of the code and make sure that there's no oversight in what is being proposed there. So that's just another topic of business that I'm anticipating hopefully seeing on an upcoming agenda, as it is an important rule as identified by the over year-long work done by the SEAW Association and their Earthquake Engineering Committee. So that was my other item of business. I am done. Thanks.
Thank you, Micah. Ray.
Yes, well, I guess if as long as all council business is done, I'd make an announcement. So it's very similar to Andrew's. This is Ray Shipman, State Building Code Council staff. This is my last council meeting as well. I have taken a new position, and moving on. It's been a pleasure working for this council. It's been an unbelievable experience. I don't think I would have gotten the knowledge that I've gotten anywhere else in any other agency. The friends that I've made through tag chairs, council members, outside connections, Tony, Corey, Todd, the tsunami, that was an amazing tag. I couldn't imagine. I learned more about tsunamis than I ever wanted to. But I just want to say thank you. It's been a great experience, and I'm looking forward to still being involved in the code development process. Hopefully you'll see me on a tag, maybe giving comments. So I'm looking forward to it, and it's been a pleasure. Thank you very much.
And I don't have a thank you letter for Ray because I don't like him right now, but I'll thank him later, and I'll include the appropriate drinks to it.
And just, being we have 3 code specialists, losing one is 33% of the staff. So bear with them. They're gonna need some help for a little bit.
Well, I think we're losing 2 because John submitted his resignation as well, and his last day will be April 1st.
Wow.
So we are hiring.
Well, thank you, Ray. Is John on?
I think.
Yes.
John, yes.
John, thank you too for your, since I won't have an opportunity to say that again. We appreciate all your hard work. And I know this has been a lot of hard work this past year. Sorry, go ahead. The floor is yours.
No, I don't need the floor. I appreciate it. Yeah, it's definitely been a whirlwind. There's a ton of stuff I learned, and to echo Ray's comments, I haven't been here as long, so but it was definitely I guess it's an emotional thing to a lot of degrees. So I'm pretty excited for the future and what that looks like. And I mean, what an amazing group of people, and to be involved in it's some way impact what's going on with the codes has been really it's been an honor. So I thank everybody, and thanks for all the patience as I learned everything as I went, and look forward to.
Thank you, John. And I don't want to leave out people who are staying. Krista, you've been amazing. Annette, I haven't worked with you very long, but you've been great as well. So yeah. Shel, go ahead.
Yeah, I kind of wanted to track back, now that I'm thinking about it, on the earlier conversation where the MVE takes a hard look at revising or making a direct recommendation on all the public comments. I think Senator Wilson brought that up, and we didn't resolve that. I think it would take a great deal of time for the MVE to do that, but I think it's certainly possible. So I guess as the chair, I get to set the agenda.
My suggestion, Shell, not, read all the comments and then not necessarily take a position on each comment, but on each proposal. And then maybe that will be less work, but I don't know.
I think that's certainly something that the committee can do. Yeah, I'm also want to be very cognizant of staff time, but also doing what the council wants the MV committee to do. So are there any other thoughts from other council members on what?
Thank you, Shell. I wanted all council members to know what hadn't been looked at and what your scope was, so there was no misunderstanding. So if council members want MVE to take a position on whether it be all comments or all proposals, now's the time to say that.
I think in listening to Shell yesterday, just the idea that some of these proposals are very controversial. And I think understanding that there may be, reasons on both sides of the argument. And I think what you talked about yesterday was he was bringing before the council so we could have that discussion and make the decision together. And I understood what he was doing there. And I think that's probably the best way to go about it.
Okay. Any other discussion on that? So, Shell, I guess you're off the hook. You did exactly what the council wanted.
I'm not asking to not be on the hook, but I guess the method maybe is ratified or corroborated.
Yeah.
We will have positions on the small modifications to proposals, but I don't know. I'm willing to hear anybody else on that subject as well.
Okay. I know I was concerned the way that you worded stuff, and obviously the senator was, and a few other people. So I think we talked through it, but Corey, go ahead.
I just wanted to add that I'm new to the council, but I've been listening to the work that Shell has done, more tag work. And I've been able to participate in those, just sitting in the background to listen and learn. And this tag has done inordinate amount of work because of the workload they have, the proposals and everything for what they're doing. And so they've already done tons of work on trying to, go through the actual information and figure out how to best apply what they're looking at. And so, but again, some of these proposals, not all of them, but some of them are very controversial. And so I understood where he was saying it's probably best to bring it before, but most of the recommendations have been well thought out, and they're looking at this from, an expert standpoint, right? And I think I just wanted to mention that they have done a ton of work, and I paid attention. I've learned more than I ever wanted to know about the energy code, just in the background from their effort. And I just want to make sure that that's known to the council, that they're being impartial. They're actually crunching the numbers and asking questions of each other and trying to cipher what the impact would be and all those things. And I just want to say that doesn't mean they have opinions and they're valid for their tag because they're the expert in it. But I guess I just wanted to make sure that's known.
Thank you, Corey. And I'm in agreement. Micah posted in the chat, he's in agreement. I think everyone, appreciates the depth of the work that you've had. So thank you. Anything else for other business? Going once, going twice. All right, Stoyan, I'll hand it back to you. Anything for a staff report?
Well, we touched the staff issues. This is what I was trying to outline, and I don't want to waste your time and repeat everything again. We will reevaluate the structure, and we will be hiring. We just need a week or so to figure out how we'll approach that. But when I say we do the best we can, well, this is what I meant. You know, when we say stuff, I'm happy to work on codes. I think I'm not really good with the administration because I don't kind of like it, but I love working on codes and all my free time goes there, but sometimes we just can't catch up. So the best we can has a meaning when I say it. If you now folks interested to develop codes, let me know. We will have openings. We can interview them. This is what I want to share during my staff time.
Thank you, Stoyan. Yeah, best of luck in finding replacements. It'll be difficult. And yeah, if anyone knows of anyone, please send them forward to Stoyan, and yeah, I know he'll appreciate that.
We'll open the process in about probably 2 weeks or 3 weeks.
All right. Okay. I guess that concludes things. We will adjourn. Have a great weekend, and yeah. It's been great working with everyone.
Thank you so much, Andrew.
Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew.